Hello BookTube, it's Louise, the Big Head Bookworm. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well. Hope you're having a lovely day. It is the middle of Spookathon at the moment, and so I'm doing my updates for that. But I suddenly realised I hadn't told you about the books that I had read before Spookathon started. So this is going to be my wrap-up for the first couple of weeks in October and the books that I read. Now, September I didn't have such a good reading month for me because of events, life, my mum in particular. She's doing much better. She's out of hospital. She's been out of hospital for a couple of weeks, and I would like to say thank you to everybody that left comments, that had her in their thoughts and had her in their prayers. It was tremendous. I found it totally amazing that you would all open your hearts in such a way. So thank you so much. It must have helped because she came out of hospital quite quickly. Unfortunately, long term, the news isn't going to be great. And so as a family, we are all working together to support one another and to support her. And we're looking at treatment options at the moment, and we're hoping that there are treatment options. So we're going to still need some love and support over the coming months. But we're not going to borrow any pain from the future. We are enjoying all the time that we have together. We're enjoying the way that the family's come together has been wonderful, and the friends around us. So that has been a beautiful thing. So we thank all for that. So now I've updated you on this. October has been a better reading month for me. I think after initial shock and after initial worry, life, as always, begins to settle down, and things become a new norm, as I'm sure everybody has experienced at some point. It may not be a norm that you would choose, but it becomes a new norm, and so you find different ways of coping with it. So, books. Let's talk books, because that's what we're here for. Yes? So, the first book that I picked up this month, I actually saw on Kate Howe's channel ages ago, people, and I had never heard of it before, and it is An Assembly Such as This, a novel of Fitzwilliam Darcy. It's the Gentleman Trilogy, the Fitzwilliam Darcy Gentleman Trilogy by Pamela Aiden. And these are published by Touchstone Books, but I think they might have been self-published to begin with and then picked up by Touchstone? I don't know. Kate talked about these books. I think she hauled it in kind of like late July, August, and she held it up and she said it's, a Fitzwilliam Darcy novel, as though we would know about that kind of thing. And I had never heard of that. Now, I am a complete fanatic about Pride and Prejudice, but I haven't ever really read many other books around Pride and Prejudice, or other retellings or reimaginings of the story. I've been a bit of a purist and kept very much to straight Pride and Prejudice and other versions of it, as in films or TV. So, but this one really piqued my interest. I have ventured out a little bit, but this one I thought, okay, I shall order it. So I ordered it, and it didn't come until the middle of October. It took about 2 months to come, at which point I was like, oh, is it ever going to arrive? And then it arrived, and I was like, ooh. So I picked it up and I started it. So I haven't hauled it. So this is my haul. Look, I got this. And then I read it. And this is the first book in the trilogy. Do you know what I'm going to show you? Oh, yes. I got the trilogy. So there are 3 books in the trilogy. So there is An Assembly Such as This, there is Duty and Desire, and then there are These 3 Remain. So those are the 3 books. As you can see, the middle one I couldn't find in that edition. So that's why I think they were self-published, because this one feels like a self-published edition. Not in a bad way, just it looks different than the other 3. So it's the 3 of them that tell the story of Pride and Prejudice. This is from the first assembly to the ball at Netherfield, if you know Pride and Prejudice. This takes a leap of faith and becomes a Regency Gothic novel featuring Fitzwilliam Darcy and nothing to do with the story of Pride and Prejudice. Well, it does. It talks about his development. It talks about his state of mind. But the events, nothing to do with Pride and Prejudice. And then the third one, These Three Remain, is from Rosings, where they meet at Rosings Park, to the end. Okay, so that's the trilogy. And I loved them. I think they're what I needed. I really do. I absolutely hooked. So halfway through this, I ordered the next two, which I can't show you. Yeah. So halfway through this one, I thought, that's it. I mean, honestly, I think I read it in about 2 days. I just couldn't put it down. It was wonderful. And it was really wonderful to have a book that I just went, oh, and gobbled up. You know, that feeling when you get immersed into it. And I mean, I just love Pride and Prejudice. And so it was wonderful. So I really, really, really enjoyed this one. The second one, when it came, I was a bit surprised because it wasn't carrying on straight after the Netherfield ball. It went off and I wasn't expecting that, and I was a bit resentful for about 50 pages. But then I relaxed and I enjoyed it for what it was. It was using Fitzwilliam Darcy. It was using all the characters around him that you hear mentioned in the book, or that you would be there, that you don't actually hear about in the book, and it was fleshing them out. And so it was wonderful to spend time in that world, learn more about the society, especially the London society and the events there, and just to revel in the Regency period. So by the end of the book, I was sorry to see it end. It was just really, I really got into it. I really became a fan. And then the third book, because it picks up at Rosings, and then it stays very faithfully to the plot of Pride and Prejudice and to the end of the Pride and Prejudice. And it was wonderful, and I had all the feelings that I have when I reread Pride and Prejudice. But it was new because it was from Fitzwilliam's or Darcy's perspective, and so it was wonderful for that. I believe she says at the end of this that she's going to continue more, and she actually writes about Georgiana, and I can't trace those books. So if anybody else has read them and knows the name of any others that she has written, especially the one about Georgiana, I would love to know about it, because I would love to get it, because I really enjoyed them. But so yeah, so if you're a Pride and Prejudice head, if you're somebody that loves the book and likes reading about that world, then I completely recommend Pamela Aiden's Fitzwilliam Darcy Gentleman Trilogy. So there we go. Oh, that was a great start. So I read the first one, and then whilst waiting for the second two, I read Vanessa and Her Sister by Primer Palmer. So because I wanted something, I was still in quite a historical mood, but I didn't want another Regency. So I thought, well, I shall try this. And it's about the Bloomsbury set. So it's about Vanessa Bell and Virginia Woolf when they're because they're sisters, and it's before she becomes Vanessa Bell, and it's before she becomes Virginia Woolf, and it's about their relationship. And I really, really enjoy reading about the Bloomsbury set. Now, what it made me realise is that I've only ever read about it from the point of view of Virginia Woolf. So it's the fact that Virginia Woolf would be the main character, and these other people, it's what they do that's in relation to her. So they're like the satellites around her, or her books. So I haven't read anything about like Vanessa Bell, apart from in conjunction with Virginia Woolf. So it was wonderful because it is written with Vanessa as the main, and everybody else being satellites around her, and it's wonderful, and I just adored it. I really did. It's I found it very absorbing. I really did find it absorbing, and I thoroughly enjoyed every second of it. I was reading it, and then the night I woke up at like 4 o'clock and couldn't go back to sleep. So I got up and came downstairs and finished it off. I sat and read it from 4 o'clock in the morning until about 6 o'clock in the morning, because I had to read it, and I felt so much part of it. It was really wonderful to be back with the Bloomsbury set, but from a different angle, and to feel what happened to Vanessa. So this is a literary fiction, so it's not fact, but it is based in fact, and actually it made me look up all the details and made me read more about it again. So that was really good. So I thoroughly recommend this. So Vanessa and Her Sister by Primer Palmer, really enjoyed. Then the second two of the Fitzwilliam Darcy Gentleman Trilogy arrived, so I read those. And then I picked up, because I'd had quite a lot of Regency. Oof. I was like, oof, need a bit of a break from Regency. So I picked up Foxlow by Eleanor Wassenberg, because I thought, well, it's kind of spooky and it looks like a good book to read in October. So this is a atmospheric, can't say the word, a book about cult. So spooky, big spooky house set in the English countryside, very run down, cult, well, kind of religious cult with their own rules lives there. It has themes of abuse and manipulation and separateness, and I really struggled. I didn't really like it. I read it, but it wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I wanted. The problem for me was I didn't like the narrator's voice. I didn't like Green, the narrator. Now, I don't think she's a narrator that you are supposed to like particularly, but I didn't like her voice. I didn't like the child's voice, because when you meet her, she's, 10, 11? And I didn't like the voice. I don't mind reading from a child's perspective, but I really didn't like it. I didn't like it also because it's set up as this cult, and yet normally with cults there is that charismatic leader, and there is a kind of charismatic leader, and they manipulate it so that the violence or the abuse or the events or the religion makes sense to everybody, whereas you just didn't have that. The person that was just the acceptance of nastiness and violence and manipulation within all the other adults, but there was no reason. There was no reasoning why they would accept it. There just was a willfulness of turning the other cheek, averting your eyes, and such a lack of love. There was such a lack of love in the book, and I found it ugly. So I didn't enjoy it. It's a very beautiful book, and I found it an ugly book. And not an ugly book in a way that, oh, but it's well written and I could feel it and it was ugly and it made me feel these things. I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. So that's such a shame. So I've got this book that looks so gorgeous and everything, and wasn't for me. Really wasn't for me. I can understand other people enjoying it. I can understand that other people would find the atmosphere or get into the voice. I think that's probably what always happened to me, was that from the beginning I had a distance to the voice and I just didn't get on with it. So that's a thumbs down for me. Those things happen. The other book that I actually read, not I listened to, but I read, was Eloisa James, A Kiss at Midnight, a Regency Tale. This is a delectable Regency reimagining of the Cinderella story. That's what Publishers Weekly said, and it is. I got about halfway through this. I literally got to halfway through, which was 160 something pages, and then I stopped because I was going to read something else. And I think I was lacking enthusiasm. It's kind of jolly and it's fantastical because it's a fairy tale, and I liked the Cinderella lady Kate, she was a bit feisty and I liked it, but it didn't really have, the romance wasn't strong enough for me. So I put it down, and then I was toying whether to abandon it or whether to pick it up, and I thought, I'll give it another go. So I read the next couple of pages, and like that, I was hooked. It was as sudden as like 3 pages, and that was it. I just wanted to sit and read it, and it got steamier and it got a bit saucy, and you felt the chemistry between the two characters, and that was what I was missing at the beginning. And then I got the 2 main characters. I loved the side characters. I really loved some of the side characters, and I liked their joie de vivre and their silliness, and I really got it in the end. I really do. So I've actually ordered another one of hers because by the end of it I was like, whee! So that was really good fun. So that's a Kiss at Midnight by Eloise James. It's a saucy a little bit saucy. Cinderella romance, and well worth picking up if you're into that kind of thing. So those were all the books that I read. I listened to Jane Austen's Persuasion, which is my favourite Austen. I know, after talking about Pride and Prejudice, this is my favourite. I have always had a soft spot for this, even though Pride and Prejudice was, you know, for a long time my favourite. The more I read this, the more I listen to this, the more I watch adaptations of it, the depth of this story really sinks more and more into me, and it's one of those that you can reread and you get more out of it, so it is always glorious. So I found I used my Audible credit and I listened to this because it was just wonderful, really, really wonderful. So that was a great one for me. I probably read it every year, and I hadn't read it for a year, so I was like, oh, I should listen to it. And then I just wanted another quick one, so I picked up Five Little Pigs by Agatha Christie, which is an Hercule Poirot mystery. It's one of my favourite Hercule Poirots. It's not your typical one because it's not set in a cosy village. It's set round one particular event. That's a grim cover, look at that. The 1980s covers, they knew how to do horrid covers, didn't they? A green pig who's eaten blood. Anyway, so I listened to that. It's one of my favourites, and it was just a joy. A joy. So there we go. So it was good, as you can see. I had a really good first couple of weeks, first kind of 3 or so weeks a couple of weeks actually, of October. I really has a good variety. Foxglove was a bit of a down, but apart from that, it was really good. So there we go. Are you impressed? I hope so. And are you surprised that I was able to read all of that? No, probably not, knowing what I'm like. I hope you've had a good October so far, and I hope that we get to do this again soon, BookTube, because I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. All right then, bye-bye.